Well, hi, hello, everybody. Today, we're going to be talking about how I plan to solo Dolmenwood. That's right. So I say, let's break it down.
Oh, what's up, fuckers? It's Willie the Wizard here. Guess what? We get to continue my dang old story. That's right. We're going to be traveling the land of Dolmenwood, trying to find the Page of Envy. It's going to be fantastic. And today you're in luck, because Turkey is here to give you a session 0 of how we're going to be doing it, and what world we're going to be in, and what the heck is even relevant. What's going on? Who's this old man on my screen right now? Well, that's what you're going to find out in today's video. So, good luck on you, and make sure to have fun, and tell Turkey by leaving a like that you want to see more old Willie the Wizard, because I've been feeling neglected around here, and I think that's not right. So, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you later.
Well, hi, hello, everybody. My name is Turk. Welcome back to the Grouch Couch. Around here, we do all different kinds of solo RPG things, but that's right. Today, we're talking all about Dolmenwood. We're going to be talking about how I plan to solo it, what my procedures are, what the story is going to be. That's right. We're delving deep into Dolmenwood. This is super exciting. I'm honestly excited as heck to have all of this Dolmenwood stuff. These 3 books, as well as the cloth map, was sent to me from Exalted Funeral. Celebrating my new affiliateship with them, you could head over to exaltedfuneral.com and use code GrouchCouch for 10% off anything. That's right. So get over there and check that out if you want to. And big thanks to Exalted Funeral for sending these over to me and allowing to do the code and everything. It's very exciting for me because I actually shop at Exalted Funeral. I love everything they make. So this is very, very exciting. Big thank yous to everybody for using that code if you want to support the show. And that's that. Secondly, before we get into the shenanigans, I want to give a big shout out to the Couch crew. That's right. All of you guys supporting the show, keeping me going. I would not be continuing and playing this story if it wasn't for your support and your awesome words and everything else. So just thank you so much. Whether you're a Patreon subscriber or a channel member or just a regular viewer that comments and does all kinds of stuff. And hey, even if you're brand new, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for being a part of the crew. Part of the Couch, a part of the crew. You guys rock. Thank you so much. Now, what's on the rocket docket for today, you say there, Turkey? Well, we are going to get into Dolmenwood. I'm explaining a little bit of my ideas thus far. This is basically going to be a session 0 for my upcoming solo campaign. But I know a lot of you guys just click on this here first video to see maybe how I'm doing it, how maybe you might do it, and that's totally cool. So I'm going to teach while I explain what my plans are for the dang old story. Secondly, this is a continuation of the Willie the Wizard campaign that started with Dragonbane. But if you have not watched any of that Dragonbane campaign stuff and don't intend to, have no fear. This story is going to be self-contained here in Dolmenwood, all right? So we're going to start at a good place and we're going to end at a good place where everything's going to be fun and the story is going to make complete sense to you, so have no fear about it. But if you want some extra spice, feel free to go back and watch Dragonbane. So we're going to be going over all of that today here in session 0. Talking about the supplements, what my procedures are, what my plans are. I think that that's it. So, without any further jibber jabber, to the top-down camera. Here we are. There are some things we're going to be using here for Dolmenwood. Obviously, very much so obviously, this is going to be a hex crawl game. We're going to be using this here map, all right? Recently, I just posted a video about travel and journeys when it comes to solo RPGs, and hex crawl is a fantastic way to do a solo RPG. I did one similarly to this with Land of Eam, also from Exalted Funeral, and enjoyed the heck out of it. So we're going to be doing a similar thing. So if you do plan to solo my way, you're going to need the map somehow. Print it out, roll 20, however heck, you're going to need the map, all right? And I still have a miniature of Willie the Wizard that I actually got from Sword and Stone Hobbies back when I did the Dragonbane campaign. We've actually got our Charles the Skull wand right on there. It's so fantastic. So we're going to be using this as we're moving across this map best that I can. And that's just fun for me. That's right. Now, our solo driving engine. I'm going to tell you guys the dang old truth. I went through a lot of them. I was trying to figure out, should I use something different? Should I use solo playing cards for my yes or no questions? There's another one that's like Chaos Fantasy on drive-through. I was thinking about printing it out and using that because the events look fun. But then when I actually started using it, I kind of hated it. I went through a bunch of different things. Like what exactly, what am I going to use for my solo driving engine? Because whenever we're playing any kind of solo RPG that isn't meant to be soloed, like big campaigns like Dolmenwood, we need the game itself and a solo driving engine. You can see I've already got Mythic here on the table because you know what? Straight up, we're going to use Mythic Game Master Emulator. I've used it once or twice before for whole campaigns on the channel, and that was like a year or two ago. And I personally think it's time for us to do another run back with with Mythic. It's time to remember where our roots came from, and it's time to just have some fun and play it easy, okay? So I have the Game Master Emulator 2nd edition book here, all right? It's a little warped, but that's okay from over time of me using the crap out of it. Over the course of this series, you might see me using the book. You might see me using some printouts. You might see me using the single page Game Master Emulator, which I also have here, all right, the 1 page. You might also see me using my own printout version of it, which is this here, that includes my solo game loop, all right? No matter what I'm using, the basis of it is going to be Mythic for this campaign. We're going to be using all different kinds of roll charts. I've got a few to start, but there are some in some magazines some Mythic magazines that I might print out. You can see here, I've got just roll chart words, all right? These are all just printed out for ease of access use. We've got descriptor tables, meaning tables, character motivations, etc., all right? I've got them all printed out and ready to go so I don't have to flip through pages and pages of Mythic, all right? But we're going to be using Mythic. I live and die by this game when it comes to solo, all right? I've learned so much from it. It's fantastic. And so, you know what? That's what we're going to do. Easy peasy. Now, on top of that, we're going to be using my solo game loop. The solo game loop is just kind of a method to map out every scene that we go into. This is going to be travel-y, which is a little bit different because every time we go into a hex, we're going to figure out what's going on in that hex, and then if we want to build out the scene, we will. But anytime we're doing scenes and we're zoomed in on our character and our character is doing something, we're going to be using the solo game loop. You can get version 1 for free up on itch.io right now, but over the course of this campaign, I'm actually probably going to be testing out some stuff for a version 2, which includes random events and scene expectations. I'm going to be testing that out a little bit using Mythic and seeing what I can adapt into the solo game loop for a version 2, because I'm actually feeling like publishing it nice and pretty and actually fully fleshed out, hopefully by the end of this here campaign that we're doing, all right? But right now, it's just a simple PDF you can get for free, and all it does is follow a simple structure. So you're going to see me using that bad boy over the course of this campaign. How does it work? Well, it's very simple. It's called Start. Scene, Task, Action, Result, Transition. I have got it right here on this here, right? You build out your scene, you figure out what your task is in that scene, you take your action, you determine the results, and then you transition to the new scene, all right? I'm going to be adding in some addendums like, is the next scene as expected? Which is all going to come basically from Mythic. We're going to be dealing with that. Alrighty-dighty. Moving on. Now, we are playing in Dolmenwood, and here's the fun thing. Also, speaking of materials, before we move on to that, the dice box is green screened. That's why it's not orange as it usually is. It is now officially green screened, so I can roll in this little dice box here whenever I need to. And the other fun thing about it is that I've actually got a zoom on it, as we can see here. So if I ever tried to zoom into the map or zoom into the book, we've got a little dice zoom here, so we can still see whatever the heck the dice rolls are that we're using. Optionally, if I have any cards or anything else, we can also put them in there, all right? It's just green screened, simple stuff. And I can change the backgrounds if I want to. For now, it's just a forest because Dolmenwood makes sense. All right. Okay, so most of my stories are pretty character focused, all right? They really are. I have been told I do things a little bit different sometimes than other folks, and I don't really care because for me, it's all about having fun, all right? The thing that I love doing is taking my characters, doing 5 or 6 episodes with them, usually about 3 to 10 actually, and then taking that same character and moving them into a new system and continuing their story. And that's what we're doing with Willie the Wizard here in Dolmenwood. Because of that, I sometimes have keeping things canon and keeping things straight. I always do my best. I take as many notes as I absolutely can. But for some of the folks that watch Dragonbane and then are now watching this, if I get things a little bit backwards or anything else like that, I do apologize. Feel free to correct me in the comments and I'll make addendums as needed. But I do have a bunch of notes written out, which we will go over in a second. My main point of that, though, is even though all of my stories are very character forward and we're going to be following Willie the Wizard the best that we can, the coolest part about Dolmenwood is the setting, right? This big fat campaign book, all of the fun monsters you can run into, just literally everything else. I've just been spending time just reading through Dolmenwood and kind of just learning the lore about it. I've been listening to people just talk about the lore of Dolmenwood and this really cool world that the folks in Necrotic Gnome, what they have done here, right? It's fantastic. So my goal here while we're playing Dolmenwood is to experience this world and its lore. And that's why I think doing this Hexcrawl thing is going to be fantastic, all right? So more so than focusing on Willie's story, I really want this game we're doing here here to be about discovery and just discovering some things in this Dolmenwood world and trying to stay as true to the Dolmenwood lore as we possibly can without messing up any of our character lore, all right? That being said, though, creativity does thrive with limitations, so I might still come up with some extra little bits and bobs to kind of get through things, all right? But I mean, just skimming through this book, the hex descriptions are insane. 912. This is a whole page for 912. Everything that's happening in 912, right? All of these pages and everything else that we might run into. I want to ensure that while we're going through the hexes, we're still going to run into encounters with enemies and weird monsters, and we're going to find extra shrines and other kinds of weird stuff, all right? I really want to explore this world, and so it's what this campaign is really going to be about. On top of our character, it's mostly going to be about exploring the world of Dolmenwood and the human nobility of it. This campaign book is just, it's wild to me, dude. It's huge and it's awesome, and I'm still actually reading through it, as it says right now. I'm still reading through it. I'm still memorizing the important bits of the rules. I'm still doing that thing. I swear I thought I had a GM screen, and I was like, I'm just going to refer back to the GM screen whenever I need rule checks, but turns out I don't have it actually, so we're going to get that, we're going to get that going. I might print out the important pages that I need. We'll see. Because I like rule checking while I play best that I can, which we will be doing, right? We're going to be rule checking, so if you also intend to learn how to play Dolmenwood while we play, I'm going to do my best to teach as well over the course of it, all right? We're going to be doing some rule checks, making sure we're making the appropriate rolls and everything else. That being said, Dolmenwood is kind of an old school game, right? It's designed in an old school way. That's obvious with the hex crawl, all right? I've always been a little intimidated by old school, but I think Dolmenwood is such a great way to step into it. I honestly have dabbled into old school style stuff without even knowing that I have, but it's a little intimidating because of the difficulty that it has, right? Whenever it comes to travel, we're tracking our resources. It's a very resource heavy kind of tracking thing that Dolmenwood does, at least for travel and making sure you do right travel points and everything else, which we're going to do our best to do as accurately as possible. But I have one addendum here. I'm going to be implementing, if I have to, and if I can make it make sense in the fiction, I'm going to be implementing kind of like a scar system for Willie the Wizard, all right? So if he hits 0 hit points at any point, whenever I feel like the story isn't done, I'm not done yet, then we might do a scar thing, if I can make it make sense. If he's completely obliterated, then we'll make it make sense another way, but I want to implement scars. He may get knocked unconscious and wake up with a scar on his face, or wake up with missing fingers, other kinds of stuff like that. Just kind of scars to show that he has gone down in battle, because it is a little bit difficult and we are playing this solo, okay? Now we do have some companions, which if you are playing anything solo, always bring companions with you. I have a whole video talking about solo companions. Go on ahead and check it out. But for Dolmenwood, we're absolutely bringing companions to help us not die, okay? I just feel like we have to do that, right? So, the crazy, fun, cool monsters in the monster book right here, the basilisk, the barrow boggy, the black tentacles, the bog corpse. It's all in alphabetical order. I'm going to do my best to find a way to be able to randomize these. I might find some roll charts, might download some stuff. We might do a little bit of page randomization, because there is 117-ish pages of monsters in here. So if we do encounter something and the hex doesn't tell us what we're encountering or anything else like that, we're going to roll randomly through this book to decide whatever it is that we encounter. There's a fun way to do that. Since it's over a D100, we roll a D2 first to see how many D100s we roll, right? And then we roll that and we see how it goes. Fun stuff. If we get way above 120 at any point, I'll just re-roll. That's fine. But I'm going to use this book as a random table in itself, or I might find a way to print out a better one that makes a little bit more sense, which honestly wouldn't be that hard. I think I could do that. It'll just take time. So maybe I'll make a roll chart. Okay. That's our encounters. That's our hexes. I'm going to decide exactly what hex we're going to be starting on before we actually start, and we'll go into full details about that village place when we do it, because when our story did leave off, Willie was in a village, all right? There was some stuff going on, which we're going to cover here in a little bit, all right? We're going to decide where we're starting, and then we're going to venture off from there and go hex to hex. These are actually pretty huge hexes, all right? So I imagine we might spend a day or two in each hex. We might not get very far, right? That being said, I have not decided how many episodes of Dolmenwood we're going to do. All right, I have it at all. Could be 3, could be 10, could be 15. I don't know. We'll see as we play. Now, here's Willie's character sheet. I hope I did this right. I'm going to double check it before we actually play, but because I kind of did it pretty quickly, but I started him at level 5. All right, he's got a 15% XP modifier, which is kind of cool. We'll see how we deal with XP once we start playing. But human magician in this game he is. Instead of a wizard, he's a magician, which gives him some magical spells. I reworded his grimoire, his cracked grimoire, to be Charles's cracked grimoire, which is the skeleton that he has on his staff. Theoretically, a lot of these spells are going to come from a book that Charles gave him or from the staff itself. All right, Charles is giving him the ability to cast these spells. We did all of his stats straight across. I basically just converted them from Dragonbane, used the same exact stats that we had, and then just added in the modifiers, which kind of sucks because on a 13, we would get that +1 mod to dexterity instead of a 12. But it's just, I did these stats for Dragonbane, so we'll see if I change them. I kind of like using the same exact stats. It's kind of fun for me. We also have our saves because we're a human and our resistances. I do not think our speed in exploring is correct because I think our overland and regular speed, I actually did the math for it because we have Petunia the cart, which we'll talk about in a second. We have a cart that we're going to be traveling with. So I'm going to go back and double check our speed and make that addendum for sure. And I did write down in my notes just how many spells we can do per day. I think that's important. But the spells that we have are all kind of reflavored a little bit. We have Firelight, but that's going to be Lightning Light because Willie is a lightning wizard. We have Ignite. We have Ion Shard. We have Lightning Spirit, which has changed from Fire Spirit. We have Web. We have Lightning Bolt. And we have Dispel Magic. All right. Dispel Magic was an extra one I think I gave him because it makes sense for his character sheet because he learned Dispel Magic from his story. And it's a part of the story that we're doing. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And I think that's really it for that. When it comes to stats, I just kind of gave him everything he had from Dolmenwood. So we've got Torch, Field Ration, Flint and Tinder, Ornate Key that he does actually have from episode 1 of Dragonbane. Still got that key. We've got Stav, Ritual Robes, and Charles's Grimoire. Right? Cool. And the fun thing about Dolmenwood I like a lot is that it uses slots. There's different ways you can do inventory management, but one of the ways you can do it is with slots, and I really appreciate that. So when the page is full, our inventory is full. Fair enough, in a nutshell.
Hey, what's up, nerds? It's Willie the Ad Wizard here to let you know that this video has been brought to you by you. That's right, so make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe. No one has sponsored us. Eventually we'll get there, but for now, it's here for you, okay? By you, for you. So make sure to leave a like on the video, because you're the only one supporting this dang ship. A part of the couch, a part of the crew. That's right. Sheesh. Willie the Ad Wizard out.
So let's get into a little bit about who the heck Willie the Wizard is. If you have not heard about Willie the Wizard or don't know who he is a very eccentric old man wizard. He spent years and years working in a library where he kind of lost touch with the world. Years and years, talking 30, 40 years, just in this library, locked in there, basically counting books and putting things away and just reading books. At which point he actually came across a magical book in the forbidden section. And when he opened it, the book itself, as far as we know, started a fire in the library. And as the library was burning down, Willie himself cast some magic to banish the book, and it went awry, and all the pages of the Codex of Ashen Scale, which is what this book was called, were scattered across the realm. And now his goal is to find all these pages and destroy them before they do any harm to the world. He was banished from his hometown whenever this happened because everyone believes that he burned down the library because he was the only one in there. It must have been him. He did it. So he's banished from his hometown. His real goal is to save the world, but he also kind of wants to be able to go home because that's where he grew up. Now, Willie the Wizard has been through a lot. If you want to know, he's a main couch core character, meaning they're on my website. If you go over to couch core characters, we've got a full description about Willie the Wizard, everything he's been through and everything else. He has a companion, a stationary companion that will always be with him no matter what, and that is Charles, his staff, which is it's a demon trapped inside the skull that provides him information, but also gives him some magical powers as long as he has the staff. The demon himself, Charles, is a little bit crazy, a little bit wonky, very foul-mouthed, and only Willie can hear Charles. Only the person holding the staff can hear Charles when he talks. So a lot of times, Willie just kind of looks like a crazy old man talking to himself, but he's actually talking to his staff. I believe that Charles was a thief at some point, but we don't know what kind of demon Charles is. Sometimes he gives him good info, sometimes he lies, and that's just kind of the way that it is. Right. The other thing about Willie is that he does love animals and nature and the simpler of things because when he was younger, he grew up on a farm called Spuds and Buds. They made potatoes, but also weed. That's the farm he grew up on. And when he was growing up, he actually adopted a baby dragon and actually helped raise it. But eventually the dragon left him when it got old enough. It became an adolescent dragon and it flew away. But Willie named this dragon Nysandra. She is a purple dragon, just a little bit rarer from where he's from. And he hopes one day to also be able to find Nysandra and bond with her once again because he spent all of his childhood, that was basically his best friend was this dragon, and they kind of grew up a little bit together. But eventually eventually she flew the coop and he was left alone, which is very sad. And so he kind of got used to just being alone, and that's what led him to the library, also being alone. And so now he's out in the world. He's very awkward, very strange, and trying to interact with people, and it's tough for him. So that's Willie the Wizard in a nutshell, I think. Sweet. Okay, we have our story threads chart. Whenever we're playing anything with Mythic, we need to have story threads. So we have all of these. But I think now is probably the time for us to go over some notes and talk about how the heck we got here. Oh no, my printed page got cut off halfway. We'll see if I can remember. Okay, before we get into the story threads and the companions that we currently have, let's talk about our story a little bit and what the heck's going to be happening in this game with our story, because my favorite part of all this is telling stories. So, this is, yes, a continuation of Willie the Wizard's story, but we are starting a new chapter here in Dolmenwood. So again, you do not have to have watched any of the older episodes to follow along. This will be self-contained. But for those of you who have been here, yes, everything from before in Dragonbane has indeed still happened, okay? The base of it. What is our story? Well, Willie the Wizard has been searching for the lost pages of an ancient magical book called the Codex of Ash and Scale. These pages are dangerous, and each one of them is tied to some kind of dark magic. And over the course of the story, we're starting to learn that each one of these 7 pages that have gone missing from the book of the Codex of Ash and Scale, each one page seems to be connected to one of the 7 deadly sins. In the last part of the story, Willie and his companions discovered that one of these pages was connected to the Demon of Envy. This is the most recent one and the one that is relevant to our story at hand. The Demon of Envy, okay? And that Demon of Envy chose a vessel. And that vessel that it chose was Morlin, which is the missing wife of Willie's traveling companion, Paramon. Paramon is a bard that we actually saved from out of a prison. Paramon was singing songs that the local town thought was blasphemy and they had locked him up. But Paramon knows a lot about the song from the songs he's written and the songs that he's learned. He's learned a lot about the history of this world through music. And so that's also going to move forward into Dolmenwood. Paramon might know some stuff about stuff from songs that he's learned, from riddles through songs that might help us. But the Demon of Envy has chosen a vessel, and that vessel is Morlin, his wife. So Morlin has been found. We know where Morlin is. When we arrive to this village, the village where we will be starting in Dolmenwood, but in this village, dark magic is kind of taken over and a giant crack has formed from the earth. And we have learned the Demon of Envy needs a vessel to be able to emerge, right? And that is from Morlin. But right now, Morlin is being kept hidden in a hideout in the old library by a faction called the Truthful Pegasus. They are some rebels, basically, to the kingdom who are trying to fight for freedom, and Morlin may or may not be involved with them, and they're basically trying to save her. So they are protecting her. But the curse that she is under is getting worse. So the Demon of Envy has not yet completely taken her over, but there are signs of dark magic in her that is telling. It is showing us that he's trying to emerge through her into this world, right? So that brings us back to where we are now. Willie the Wizard and Paramon must find this page for the Demon of Envy, because all 7 of these pages, during a catastrophic fire in the library where Willie used to work, all 7 of these pages were scattered across the realm. And so one by one, we've been trying to find them. And the page of Envy has to be somewhere nearby. So our goal is to find this page of Envy and dispel its magic before Morlin is completely taken over by this demon and lost to Paramon forever. I actually struggled a little bit because I thought that Paramon would probably stay with his paramour, would stay with Morlin and try to, keep her good and stay with her for her last hours. But I also think that Paramon would probably want to help us push our story forward to try to get this page quicker to be able to save her life. So Paramon will be coming with us during this leg of the journey, which is going to help us in Dolmenwood, like I said, because Dolmenwood is tough. But there was a part of me that was like, let's just do it solo with one character. No. We need, we'll find new companions is what I was thinking. But I was like, nah, we'll wait for the next page. We'll get a new companion then, right? So this is why this story is kind of a little bit episodic, but I capped off the last story in a weird place. And so that's why this introduction is a little bit weird. But hopefully moving forward, every different system we do with Willie the Wizard will make more sense. It'll be capped off per page. It'll make more sense. All right. So Paramon's wife is running out of time. Willie and Paramon are here in Dolmenwood, a strange old forest full of secrets and weird magic, discovering things and trying to figure out where the page for the Demon of Envy is hidden amongst this world. It has to be close by somewhere, but where? We don't know. We must search the land for signs of the Page of Envy, or even another page maybe we might run into. So, all of that there being said, we have only ever found one other page, and it was in Dragonbane. We stopped the Demon of Gluttony from escaping. A whole town had frozen in time. It was pretty crazy stuff. There was a whole cult that was following him. So we have our story threads chart right here. It goes up to 10. I like to do 10. It helps me with a good roll chart. I usually do one more, which is add a new thread, but right now I think we're kind of full up. Once we do solve some threads, then we'll go back, and I actually might try to slim this down before we start playing, but for now, this is what we're looking at. Find the missing envy page somewhere in Dolmenwood. That's number 1. Number 2 is to save Morlin before the curse finally claims her, which is kind of the same, like I said, so we might, same is same, right? And learn what the Demon of Envy actually wants. He wants to come to this world maybe for something else. Maybe there's something else going on there, right? Discover who, if anyone, has the envy page in Dolmenwood, right? Where is it? Who has it? Then we have the Truthful Pegasus, which is our faction that is helping Morlin. Can they be trusted? We also have to keep Paramon from losing hope or doing something reckless because his wife is about to dang old pass away, right? We also do not know a lot about this book, the Codex of Ashen Scale. There could be more to it. We know there was 7 pages and 7 demons, but there could be way more dealing with this book. Why were the demons all locked into these magical pages in this book in the first place? I don't know. Now we also have, there are rumors spreading about Willie's magic and lightning. Heartsbane was the village in Dragonbane. That's what we called it. It's going to be called something else in this. Willie the Wizard basically decimated about 6 cultists with one huge lightning strike. And so I had an idea, or maybe there's rumors spreading about him having some crazy magic and it's his fault, right? That all this bad stuff is happening. It's going to make it harder for him. We'll see if we follow through with that. And lastly, it's just to survive Dolmenwood, but I think we're actually going to cross this one off. Sorry, I'm making adjustments while we're playing. That's crazy. We're going to put new thread for 10. All right. So I'm going to slim these down. It's going to be a D6 chart instead, because some of these are doubles and that's fine. Moving on, I did some basic stats for Paramon and for Petunia the Giant Badger. And as you can see here, this is where I kind of got speed a little confused. Overland travel speed of 30, right? Which is 6 TP per day. And it's because Petunia has a cart. All right. So that's why I put that on there. We have Paramon the Bard. So in this, he will still be a bard. I remember how I did that, but I did these character sheets 2 weeks ago. I'm just finally getting to sit down and play, which is awesome. Anyways, he's got his basic saves. He's got a short sword and a dagger and a longbow. He has skills of decipher documents, listen, and monster lore of 5, 5, and 4. He does have 2 abilities, which I did give him, which is counter charm, and he has enchantment. So he can enchant stuff and do counter charm stuff. I thought it was good to have a bard that could be some kind of support in some kind of fashion. The only ability that Petunia the Badger has is Badger's Fury, if she's ever hurt. And I based her stat off of a giant bear, I think, in Dolmenwood. I based her stats off something, but if she's ever hurt or cornered, she attacks with both of her claws, so she gets 2 attacks instead of 1. And then she also has a helpful ability called Scent Warning, where she can react to danger early, which is going to give us bonuses on perception checks or detect danger checks. She can actually help us do that. And so those are our 2 companions in our story threads for our story, along with old Willie the Wizard. And I had the notes, but they were all cut off, so I basically just read the Google Doc that I typed them up in when I was giving a little bit of the recap, just making sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, so we already recovered the first page, the page of Gluttony. The current page is the Demon of Envy that we're trying to track down. And I think that Morlin is like super friggin' beautiful, and that's why the Demon of Envy wants her as a vessel. It makes sense because Paramon's probably going to be getting something like that, so good for him. But anyways, I think I covered everything else. So we are going to be starting somewhere on a hex. It's going to be some kind of, I'm going to look through here, I'm going to find a village that makes sense for us and a location that makes sense for us, and we're just going to start traveling, trying to find this page of envy. It's basically the story, but hopefully we're going to be doing lots and lots of discovery in Dolmenwood, being able to interact with these crazy fun creatures. I'm just kind of excited about it. There's so many cool creatures and cool concepts in Dolmenwood that I'm just excited to kind of just spend time with, and that's mostly what I do when I do my solo games. I like to tell stories, but also just kind of spend time with these games and have fun with them. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing. So hopefully all that's going to make sense. There's one other thing I want to show you guys that we're going to be using that I didn't pull out yet. Almost forgot. There are dungeons in Dolmenwood, and we're probably going to have to go into a dungeon at some point. Just saying. For our dungeons, we're going to be using this right here. This is the deck of mini dungeons from Axe Banes. All right. I have a full video that just went up on about this earlier this week, I think. So if you want more details about them, you want to know how they work, you could check out that video. But essentially, we could shuffle these cards and we can build out a dungeon. So as you can see here, we could build out these dungeons. Some of these encounters are monster encounters. We're going to be using monsters from Dolmenwood instead. We might get like a theme of the dungeon before we go into it, and then we'll theme all our monster encounters around that. But this is basically how we're going to do our dungeons. We're going to be going through each one of these rooms and doing fun stuff like that, all right? And there are dungeons in this game, and I wanted a fun way to procedurally generate dungeons. And this is if we encounter a dungeon that already has a map, we'll use that map. But if it doesn't, this is what we're going to be using, all right? And these cards are super cool, very fun, easy to play with, and they're designed for fantasy, which is fantastic. So there you have it. This is what we're going to be using. This is our whole game. Exciting stuff. Hopefully that story stuff makes sense. I hope I did a good job. Really, truthfully, the main thing to remember is that we're searching for the Page of Envy. We are a crazy wizard. Now, I'm pretty excited, and I really want to figure out what hex we're going to start in, but really, truthfully, every episode's just going to be discovery. One hex to another, building out some scenes, seeing what we encounter. My goodness. These people, maybe eventually we'll deal with these people. I don't know if I really end up enjoying the mechanics and how this game works. We might do this for a long time. I'm worried because of how fat it is that I might get a little exhausted, which does happen. Reading all of the words and dealing with everything. Sometimes it does get a little exhausting. But right now I have real good feelings about pretty much everything. And so we'll see how that goes. Because I've only heard good things. And I love the idea of this world. And the forest was once like completely covered in ice. And this magical ice king came and was like controlling everything, and then people rose up and fought him, and there's like these crazy shrines that are hidden in places, and like I'm telling you, I've been learning the lore of this place, and it's kind of crazy. The wood gods, and there are people that worship the one true god, which they don't even know what the one true god is. Look, here it is, literally the shrine of ice, Knights of the Full Moon. It's crazy. So we'll see how it goes. I think the only thing I'm also worried about is spending so much time in wilderness. I really like urban stuff and being in towns and interacting with people and stuff like that. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully there's enough in here. Pretty exciting. All right, that's it. That's everything we're going to be using. That's how we're going to be doing it. Hex to hex. We're going to basically, we go into a hex. I don't know if I explained it well enough. Say we start at one hex. This is a whole town here. Let's just find a hex, right? Let's say we start at the woodcutter's encampment and we leave the woodcutter's encampment and we go into this hex here. We're going to read the description of this hex. We're going to see what the hex going on here and see if there's anything here that is going to mess with us or that we can interact with, even if we want to. And then we're going to build out our scene with our character in this hex, figure out where they are and how they might be interacting with those things. We're going to build out our scene, and then we're going to take action and we're going to resolve our action. We're going to do the solo game loop in every scene or thing that we go into, much like in any other game, but we're treating hexes like scenes, basically. I think some hexes are going to be more than one scene because we might deal with Borod's Hunting Lodge and show up in there and walk up in there. We're going to get the description of it, and we might talk to this person and see if they know anything. So we're going to build out the scene. Then we're going to make a persuasion check, which will be our action to kind of talk to them. And then we're going to resolve to see if we learn anything, which then we'll read further. And then as we're leaving, we might have to deal with Merkin's army, which is also here. We might get into a little bit of combat with Merkin's army before we can move on to the next hex. You know what I mean? It's kind of the way that we're doing things. I hope that makes sense. And I hope that it works in practice, because that's my idea right now. And things may change on episode 1, so make sure to come back and watch that. Hopefully these episodes will be going up every 2 weeks. All right, every other week we're going to do another Dolmenwood episode, because I'm also rocking a different campaign right now of Astro Prisma. Hopefully we're going to be doing every other week, which is going to give you guys time to give in suggestions, which, by the way, I also don't think I mentioned it yet. I'm a little spacey today. I love my campaigns to be collaborative storytelling as best that I possibly can. So if I ever run into an NPC or a weird creature that needs a name, maybe a talking cat, you never know, I like you guys to give me NPC name suggestions, and then I put them all into a roll chart, and then I roll on them whenever I run into a new NPC. All right, so if you have an idea for an NPC, you literally want me to name them after you, that's totally fine. Hit the comment section and leave up to 3 names. All right, up to 3 names, and I'll put them all on a roll chart and we'll roll up stuff. Okay, and if you've seen any of my other campaigns, you already know how that works. If you don't and you're brand new, absolutely leave some name suggestions. And even if episode 2 has gone up today, but you're watching this episode 0 just to get caught up, you could still leave some NPC name suggestions here, and I'll try my best to include them in the future episodes. All right, so even if you're a little bit behind, have no fear. I always do my best to read all of my comments as best that I can. All right, thank you so much. Cool, everybody. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me for this talk about session 0 in Dolmenwood. I'm pretty excited. Remember, if you want to get Dolmenwood for yourself, you could use code GrouchCouch for 10% 10% off anything at Exalted Funeral. And I hope that you join me on this adventure, and I hope that you enjoy it as much as I know that I'm going to. But for now, everybody, take a seat on the couch, at least until you find yourselves lost in the woods of Dolmenwood yourselves, trying to escape the frozen ice of the Frost King before you stumble upon a shrine to one of the old gods surrounded by weird boggles that all tell you that you must eat the stinkiest of cheese before you may move forward. Roll on that, weirdos, and I'll see you next time. A toodaloo!